Libra, the universe is collecting a debt that is not yours. Libra wasn't born balanced. It came with an empty scale and spent its entire life learning the hard way that weight on one side demands weight on the other, or everything collapses. This isn't philosophy. It's emotional survival learned early, so early that there's no clear memory of when it began. And what most people never understand is that this constant search for harmony was never about creating peace around them. It was about preventing something deep inside from becoming too strong. Each "okay, no problem" might actually be a debt being silently paid off, an account that no one opened on purpose, but which continues to record every concession, every swallowed desire, every "I'll talk to you later" that never comes to pass. Why would someone spend a lifetime pleasing others and call it kindness? Perhaps because naming it otherwise would be too frightening. Behind this trained kindness lies a mechanism older than any conscious choice. The fear that without balance, without all this harmony, Libra will simply cease to deserve to be there. This pattern repeats itself endlessly, almost unnoticed. In relationships where he gives in first, thinking he's being generous. In decisions he pushes onto someone else to make because choosing seems too dangerous. In arguments, he avoids to the point of disappearing from his own life, shrinking entire opinions just to avoid rocking the boat. And the most ironic thing of all is that the more he tries to keep everything calm on the outside, the more noise there is inside, a noise he himself has learned to pretend not to hear. There's something curious about this behavior, something that goes unnoticed, even by those closest to them. Libra doesn't avoid conflict because they lack an opinion. They avoid it because the opinion exists, strong, whole, and there's also the instantaneous calculation of how much it might cost. A friendship that cools, a look that changes expression, a table that becomes tense for a few seconds longer than is comfortable. For most people, this would only be passing discomfort. For Libra, sometimes it seems like the harbinger of abandonment, even when, rationally, they know that nobody leaves because of a small disagreement. And that's where something few people stop to examine lies. The price of maintaining peace is never paid immediately. It's paid later with interest, in the form of a nameless weariness, a tightness in the chest for no apparent reason, a desire to disappear for an entire day without explaining anything to anyone. Because keeping everything balanced out there requires, somewhere, unbalancing something in there. And the strangest thing is that, even feeling this weight, Libra continues smiling, continues mediating, continues being the person everyone seeks for advice, as if taking care of others were always safer than taking care of oneself. One question hangs in the air, unanswered, right here, before anything else continues. If all this harmony isn't about others, then what is it really about? That question lingers, hanging there, unsettling in a way that can't be ignored. It was in seeking answers to these reflections that the digital book, The Divine Wisdom that Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Purposeful Life, was born. More than just a simple read, it brings together teachings, interpretations, and exercises to help you understand patterns, develop a more conscious attitude, and cultivate a stronger mindset in the face of difficulties. For those who carry the invisible burden of keeping everything in order for others, it proposes an honest pause, recognizing where genuine care ends and fear disguised as kindness begins, and building a balance that no longer depends on anyone's approval. Many people have already begun this way of looking inward. Now it's your turn. Access is available in the first pinned comment. If you are feeling, right now, a somewhat unsettling, somewhat familiar discomfort, as if you were recognizing something that has always existed but never had a name, this is the right time to act before routine stifles this perception again. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And while that settles, leave a question in the comments. When was the last time you said everything's fine when in fact it wasn't? This invisible debt that Libra carries isn't just kept hidden. It charges interest, and the payment almost always comes disguised as good manners. That ready phrase on the tip of the tongue, that gentle way of disagreeing without really disagreeing, that smile that appears even when inside there's only exhaustion. This isn't etiquette, it's an alarm. A silent alarm that goes off every time there's a risk, real or imagined, of someone distancing themselves because of an opinion. And what if that good manners that everyone praises in Libra is, in fact, a defense system that's always on, preventing abandonment before it even happens? Notice how this appears in small things, in the way they agree too quickly in a conversation that hasn't even properly ended, in the way they laugh at a joke that wasn't funny at all, just to lighten a mood that wasn't even that tense, in the way they apologize for something that wasn't even their fault, just because the silence after an uncomfortable moment seems longer than it really is. Nobody taught Libra to do this on purpose. They learned it on their own, observing, adjusting, testing what worked to keep people around, and what worked almost always was to disappear a little bit of themselves. This explains a behavior that confuses even those who are close to them. Why does someone so intelligent, so perceptive, freeze precisely when it comes to choosing? It's not indecision due to laziness, it's terror. Because choosing almost always means disappointing someone. And for someone who has learned that disappointment is a risk of abandonment, choosing becomes a real, almost physical threat. The scale freezes in the middle, not because of a lack of clarity. It freezes because it's afraid of what happens after it tips completely. Notice the banal scene. 2 places to have dinner, 2 people waiting for an answer, and Libra there smiling, saying, either one will do, when in reality there is a clear preference, but saying it aloud seems too costly. And it's not just in small decisions that this appears. It's in job changes postponed for years because they would mean disappointing someone who relies on them in that way. It's in relationships that continue beyond the point where they should have ended, because ending them would be admitting out loud that a choice was made. And choosing for Libra always carries that bitter taste of closing a door that perhaps should remain open, just as a precaution. Just so as not to displease anyone, neither the past nor the future, nor the version of oneself that once promised to keep everything in balance. What Libra protects by not choosing is not the relationship nor the peace of others. It is their own identity. Libra uses those around them as a mirror of who they are. Without this mirror, without this constant confirmation from the outside, there is a void that they avoid facing. Therefore, every conflict is felt as fragmentation. It's not just, we disagree. It's, who am I if this person stops reflecting approval back to me? It's a mirror of mirrors. Removing a single piece can bring down the entire structure. And there's something even deeper hidden behind all of this. Libra often confuses being loved with being useful. While resolving, mediating, smoothing things over, they feel like the ground has been pulled out from under their feet. It's when they stop, when there's no more fighting to appease, no more decisions to help someone make, that insecurity appears undisguised. Because then only they remain, without a function, without a role to fulfill, and this feeling can be more uncomfortable than any external conflict ever could be. This raises a truly unsettling question. Who is Libra when no one is looking to confirm who they are? Take away the audience, take away the spectators, take away those who need mediation, advice, someone to keep things balanced. And what's left? Many people of this sign have felt this vertigo at some point alone, on any given late afternoon, without being able to properly name what it was. It was exactly that. The emptiness of a mirror that for a moment had no one on the other side to reflect back. It's also worth noting a contradiction that runs through almost every Libra, They are, at the same time, the ones who most value justice and the least able to demand their own. They quickly notice when something is unfair to another person and stand up, disagree, defend, without hesitating for a second. But when the injustice is against themselves, something freezes them. The same clarity with which they see the imbalance in others seems to become blind when the subject is their own limits. Not for lack of perception, Libra perceives everything, always has, but because naming their own injustice would mean admitting that someone, perhaps someone dear, acted in a way that hurts, and admitting this would tip the scales in a way they haven't yet learned to bear without feeling like they're about to lose something important. Perhaps this is the most uncomfortable part of all, and perhaps that's exactly why it needs to be said now, without embellishment, without softening the impact it carries. Who is Libra when no one is around to confirm who they are? That question alone is worth a pause. The digital book, the divine wisdom that guides your zodiac sign towards a purposeful life, dedicates an entire section to this exact point: how Libra can rebuild its own identity without constantly reflecting on others, without needing approval to confirm that an opinion is valid. It brings together teachings, interpretations, and exercises designed to give you back the authority over your own choices, including the small, everyday ones that often get stuck before they even begin. This material is available for a limited time, accessible via the first pinned comment. The link is in the first pinned comment. Limited time promotional access. Click now and start putting this into practice. Maintaining a beautiful exterior, smiling, balancing, adjusting, it's exhausting. It's exhausting in a way that doesn't show up in any exam, that no one sees from the outside, because on the outside, everything is impeccable. It's like smiling while holding an excessively heavy suitcase for years, ashamed to put it down and show the weight inside. How long can a body endure smiling while carrying what has never been said aloud? There's a simple way to recognize this in any Libra, including the person listening to these words right now. Notice if after a whole day with people, there's an almost physical desire for absolute silence, for no stimuli, for no new decisions to make. This isn't ordinary introversion, it's the body asking for rest from work that no one else knows it did all day. This exhaustion has a name that almost no one uses: maintenance burnout. It's not the burnout of someone who overworked a project, it's the burnout of someone who spent the entire day monitoring everyone's emotional climate, adjusting their own tone, their own expression, their own opinion, so that nothing would change. It's an invisible, silent job that no one appreciates because no one even notices it's being done. And it's precisely because it's invisible that it's never validated. And what isn't validated over time begins to hurt without a clear explanation. There comes a point where harmony ceases to be a choice and becomes a prison. When maintaining external peace costs one's own inner peace, and nobody notices because Libra is too good at it, too trained at it, too tired of it. And the cruelest part is that the better they become at appearing balanced, the less the people around them imagine that, inside, they're about to collapse. There's a detail that almost always goes unnoticed. Libras rarely break down in public. When a collapse comes, it happens in private. In the car, alone, after an entire event where they were the kindest version of themselves. In the bathroom, they take a deep breath before returning to the table, with their smile back in place. In bed, staring at the ceiling, going over every sentence of the day to see if any of them sounded too rude, too direct, too human. This is the price that almost no one sees them pay. And it's precisely because it's unseen that it's never recognized for what it truly is: genuine exhaustion, as valid as any other. That weariness of keeping everything in order, of smiling while carrying a weight that no one else sees. It has a name, and there's also a way to alleviate it. The divine wisdom that guides your zodiac sign towards a purposeful life offers a direct look at this specific type of silent exhaustion that Libra carries, teaching it to differentiate genuine care from the constant effort of emotional maintenance. It's not about stopping being kind, it's about stopping paying such a high price for it every day without realizing it. Access is available in the first pinned comment for a limited time only. The link is in the first pinned comment. Limited time promotional access. Click now and start putting this into practice. But there is a day, rare, almost always unexpected, when Libra finally says no, and the world doesn't end. No one goes away forever. The sky is still in place. It's like letting go of a rope that's held a dead weight for years and realizing with surprise that your hands are still whole. This moment almost never arrives as planned. It comes when accumulated exhaustion finally outweighs the fear of conflict. A phrase slips out before it's filtered. An opinion appears uninvited. And then the silence that follows isn't the end of everything Libra has always feared. It's just a common, fleeting silence that dissolves like any other. And what if this no doesn't destroy anything around it, and only destroys the illusion Libra had built about itself, the idea that it was only loved as long as it was convenient? This discovery is small in size and gigantic in consequence, because from that point on, every kindness Libra offers becomes a choice, not a debt repayment. Every harmony they build begins to spring from abundance, not fear. And the people who truly matter, those who didn't leave after the first no, finally become real relationships, not carefully maintained reflections. There's something almost comical about it, seen from the outside. The fear was the size of an entire world, and the real consequence fit into a small gesture. A person slightly surprised, perhaps a little embarrassed for a second, and then the conversation continues. Life goes on. Nobody wrote this in any tragedy script, because there was no tragedy there, only an old belief that ultimately found no confirmation in reality. The day Libra finally says no is small on the outside and enormous on the inside. But reaching it without getting lost along the way requires more than just impulsive courage. It requires understanding one's own pattern. That's exactly what the divine wisdom that guides your zodiac sign towards a purposeful life aims to offer. Practical tools to recognize instantly when kindness has turned into disguised fear, and how to respond to it in a way that doesn't cost you your own peace. A compass for those tired of trading authenticity for superficial harmony. Access is available in the first pinned comment, but for a limited time. The link is in the first pinned comment. Limited time promotional access. Click now and start putting this into practice. And that's how you achieve true balance. Not the kind that's taught, memorized, repeated like a habit, but the kind that only exists when the scale stops weighing the approval of others and finally begins to weigh only one's own truth. Libra doesn't need to stop being kind. It needs to stop confusing kindness with disappearance. The most beautiful harmony this sign can achieve isn't one that avoids all friction. It's one that survives it, whole, without dissolving to fit into someone else's mirror. Because in the end, balance has never been about pleasing both sides at the same time. It's always been about finding a center that doesn't depend on either of them, a center that is only yours, built over time, sustained by your own courage to remain whole even when someone disagrees. And perhaps that is Libra's quietest beauty. Not the ability to balance the outside world, but the courage, cultivated little by little, to finally find inner balance. A peace that asks no permission, a harmony that cannot be explained. It simply exists, quiet and whole, the way it always should have been, not as a result of a debt paid, but as the naturalness of someone who has finally learned to belong to themselves before belonging to anyone else. If there's a beautiful mystery hidden within the symbol of the scales, perhaps it's this. It was never meant to weigh two people, two sides, two versions of a truth divided in half. It was meant to remind us that there is a center, a single point where everything effortlessly, without calculation, without fear, holds together. And when Libra finally finds this center within itself, something quiets down in a way that no external approval could ever offer. It's not the end of kindness. It's the beginning of a kindness that for the first time is born whole without anything being demanded afterward, without any bill running beneath the smile. Only peace, true peace.